Hey there, welcome to Bushwhacked Adventures. Are you ready to journey into the wilderness and explore the great outdoors? Welcome, everyone. I've mentioned a time or two throughout my earlier episodes that I would soon do a video series about the Bushwhacked Adventure trailer. The interior is far enough along that now is a good time to share some progress. To start, I will share a little history. Years ago, I had a wide-body, 20-foot cargo trailer that I considered converting into an RV, but ultimately decided that it was too big for what I wanted to do. We sold that trailer in 2018 and bought a small travel trailer that we use for family camping. With that said, I've always had an interest in building an off-road trailer that I could take out on my own to do solo trips or with a group. Fast forward to 2021. I bought this trailer that you see here from a landscaping company and paid $1,100 for it. The price was right, the trailer was well used, but cared for, and in my mind, still has a good life left in it. I specifically wanted a 6x10 trailer for my project. I felt like I would get the most use out of the space with these dimensions and still maintain a fair amount of maneuverability while off-road. I've watched several video build series on YouTube that have helped to guide my thoughts on how to proceed with my project. While I enjoyed them all and would give credit to many, one in particular was the most helpful in my thinking. That is the Chuckbox series by Joel Tremblay. If you're interested in converting a trailer, check out his series. Several photos from the early stages of the build were lost when I switched phones a few years ago. So I will talk you through what I have done. The project has been a low priority as other projects have taken my time and efforts. One thing that I have not done is to let its unfinished condition prevent me from using it. Trips to the desert, to the mountains, Wyoming, Idaho, and it keeps me dry and off the ground. One of my first projects was to replace the axle from a 4-inch drop to a straight axle with brakes and 6-lug hub to match my tow vehicle. I wanted to improve the ride height and clearance to more closely match my pull vehicle. Next up, I rewired from a 4-pin to 7-pole RV style plug to accommodate the brakes and an accessory charging capability for the added battery. Turning to the inside, I stripped the interior walls away and added a 1-inch thick insulation from Home Depot. While the walls were down, I also addressed to shorten the wiring for the lighting and converted from 1 light to 6 LED lights to improve the lighting inside the trailer. I added an LED exterior light over the window area on the passenger side. Each side of the trailer was cut to receive a 12 by 24 window that helps to provide a little natural light and a cross breeze. At this point, I was able to reinstall the walls with the normal 3/8-inch plywood. A few of the pieces were in rough shape from the trailer's past use from the landscaping company, so I replaced a few sheets to ensure a solid base. Next came the install of the paneling pieces over the top of the plywood. This really cleaned up the interior, and it started to take on a more finished look. At this point, I was able to add an access port for shore power to accommodate the use of a generator while out boondocking. Then it was time to lay flooring. A few boxes of LVP flooring created the look I was after and will provide a nice, easy to clean, weather-resistant option. Here, it was time to start accessorizing the trailer to provide a few creature comforts. A quick story about me and my wife. Many years ago, after we were first married, we decided to go camping. I had a 1986 Ford Ranger 4x4 that we loaded up with gear and headed to the hills. I had a spot in mind that I had been to several times in the past. Picture in your mind a spot you have been to before, a beautiful mountain setting with a creek running nearby, fire ring nestled under the pine trees. Picture perfect. Well, Being the newlywed couple we were, I walked around the truck and opened her door and said, "We're here." My beautiful wife stepped out and looked around. In my mind, I was thinking to myself that I nailed it, the perfect location. Then she says, "Where's the bathroom?" At that point, I realized that life would be different for me from that point forward. So at the top of the list for amenities is a toilet. We've used the porta potty you see here for many years while we camp. It works well in a privy shelter that we can take with us when we are tent camping or need additional facilities for the group size. It still works well. In the future, when it stops working, I can look at upgrading. Another item that makes sense for us is the addition of a fridge. This fridge you see here is something that we already had and added no additional expense to the build. It does currently run on 110-volt AC, but can be converted to 12-volt DC in the future. The fridge actually fits really well right in the center of the nose section of the trailer and is a perfect height to add a countertop. The carpentry component for this build was piece by piece. I had a general idea of what I was after and went to town measuring, cutting, and screwing pieces together. First up was to make side pieces to support around the fridge. These supports, as well as a ledger board along the walls of the trailer, would provide the support for a 1.5-inch thick butcher block countertop. I purchased an 8-foot section of countertop and cut it to fit. A few coats of mineral oil really bring out the color in the wood. Next, I started to work with the left side of the fridge. This is where my shore power access comes through. I have about 36 inches of room to work with from floor to the countertop, so I started to work on adding a shelf. I wanted the shelf to be high enough that I could store a water container in this location, as you can see here. This photo gives a visual on how the porta potty will sit in relation to the cabinet. Here, you see a ledger board in place for the shelf. Cardboard always makes a good template and is cheap compared to the cost of lumber. I'm using a 3/8-inch sanded plywood for my shelf surface. Here you can see the shelf in place and ready to secure. A little sample of my temporary workstation. You work with the space you have. What you are seeing in this photo is a picture of plywood that is ready to glue to the upright support for the porta potty cover. Here I am gluing the plywood to the framework constructed. And here you can see the half wall in place and ready to secure. The remaining 2-foot section of butcher block was intended to create a hinged lid cover that can be lifted up if the porta potty is to be used in place and provides additional counter space when it is down. This is the up position, which provides a little more privacy when in use. A bolt latch was installed to secure the counter in both positions, up or down, by drilling a hole into the wall in both positions. To prevent the porta potty from shifting around while in transport, a D-ring was installed on each side to accommodate the use of a bungee cord or strap to securely hold it in place. You will also notice that I installed a couple of angle brackets at the floor level to securely hold the half wall in place. Next, I installed 1x2 furring strips as baseboard and trim throughout the trailer. You can see right here that I have left one of the normal vents that are common on cargo trailers to help provide a little fresh air. With this shot, you can see more of a finished product in the front end and with the baseboard trim. The gap in the paneling on the left side is caused by a screw head that was not seated properly and removed a little later. Floor is done, walls are finished, a few comforts of home in the front end. Still need to finish the ceiling. Frequently throughout this process, tools were everywhere throughout the trailer. Here, I drilled a hole through the roof to accommodate a set of wires for the purpose of adding solar to in the future. To prevent any leaking through my access point, I used a through bulkhead wire cap from West Marine, which is designed for marine-based applications. You can see here a top and side view of how the wire cap works. Once the cap was in place, I was able to feed a set of wires through that will accommodate the solar panels. Then I sealed it up with silicone. Back to the inside, it was time to install the second layer of insulation in the ceiling. So the walls got 1 inch and the ceiling received 2 inches of insulation. You can see the wires for the solar running down the center of the trailer. They will be covered up with trim in the future. The top of the trailer actually had a small leak to the front of the trailer at the seam between the roof and the wall. I patched that a few years ago. All seams were patched and sealed, and then the entire roof was coated with a polymer to help insulate and waterproof the top surface of the trailer. I think I put about 3 to 4 coats of this on, and it made a huge difference in the temperature inside. I added a power roof vent to help ventilate the trailer and wired this up while the walls were still off. Here you can see a few shots of the wiring as I tied into the existing switched circuit to install the LED lighting. Now it is time to start installing the ceiling paneling. I wanted a bright and easy to clean surface for the ceiling, so I am using white vinyl shower paneling. I'm using 1x2 furring strips again as a molding to help secure the ends of the cut paneling. My internal dimensions are about 68 inches, so I'm using 4 sheets of the material to cover the top. Here I have to use a hole saw to cut out the LED lighting. This is what you get when you wire up your first light and find you have a dead battery. This one looks better. A bit of a mess, but progress is being made. I found these adjustable poles to be very helpful when installing the ceiling panels. Here I'm wiring up the 3rd and 4th light. With the ceiling finished around the power vent, I can install the trim to give it that finished look. I still haven't fully decided how I want to box in the spring lift for the back door, so this part is still unfinished for the time being. In future episodes for the Bushwhacked Adventure trailer, you will see the addition of a gear loft, a Murphy bed, a folding table, and an overhead cabinet. I've already posted a series of videos on the installation of a cubic mini wood stove. On the outside, I will be adding new fenders with bar work, a spare tire holder, a rack for the generator, a roof rack for the solar. The floor will get 2-inch insulation so my toes don't get cold. I like creating and building things, and this trailer has been a lot of fun to work on. More importantly, it has been a lot of fun to enjoy. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I look forward to sharing more content with you in the future. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Click the bell to receive notifications for future content. That's all, folks. See you on our next adventure.